Hey everyone, and welcome to the Rate of Return podcast, a 30-minute podcast whose entire purpose is to equip you with the tools and resources to become the best financial version of yourself. From investing in the stock market or real estate to cleaning up your personal finances, putting you on track to become a millionaire, the Rate of Return podcast exists to give you actionable insights you can work toward today. We're putting a bit of a spin on this before mentioned theme. However, with this episode, being a successful content creator myself, I've been able to navigate weird financial challenges and figure out all this stuff from scratch. A company who's really helped creators of all types, including myself, navigate this financial sort of ecosystem, infrastructure, whatever's going on in the creator economy is here to join us. So joining me today are the co-founders of Karat Financial, Eric Wei and Will Kim. After graduating from Harvard with a degree in economics, Eric began working as a consultant for McKinsey, specifically within their fintech space. After a few years, he pivoted his career toward content creators. He began working as a product manager at Facebook, then hopped over to Instagram to build Instagram Live. You might have heard of it, super under the radar. It's Instagram Live. Will Kim has a similar successful backstory after spending time at Goldman, Palantir, and then dropping out of the Stanford University. He raised millions to start a VC fund, investing into companies like Affinity, 8 Sleep, and others that have gone on to raise hundreds of millions of dollars. And did I mention that he was named a Forbes 30 under 30 last year? Insane. Flipping back to Eric here, however, while working intimately with creators on the Instagram platform, Eric realized there's a massive disconnect between creators and banks. For example, Alexandra Botez, I think I said her name correctly, is a Stanford graduate who makes 6 figures live streaming herself playing chess on Twitch. And I just learned how to play chess like a couple weeks ago. So shout out to her for figuring out how to do that. It's awesome. Despite the money, however, she's been denied a business credit card twice. You also have Tierzu, the YouTube channel with 3 million subscribers. They weren't able to rent an apartment because their business wasn't legitimate in the eyes of their landlord. Banks were not giving creators the value they deserve, and despite making just as much, if not more, doing what they loved on the internet. Today, Karat is the credit card creators need to be successful. But the long-term vision isn't just this one-off product. Instead, it's to build the entire financial infrastructure for all creators. That means helping them launch merch lines, incorporate their businesses, get a mortgage, take out business loans, file the taxes, everything, the financial infrastructure. I've got these 2 rock stars with me. I probably missed something along the way. So guys, how did I do for the intro?
Pretty damn well, Austin.
You killed it.
I think you could just go and describe the vision of Karat yourself. So really excited and grateful to be here. Especially, I think you're just a great example of you aren't just a content creator, you're also an entrepreneur. And that's what we see what's happening. The new way to build yourself as a business and get your word out there is to develop authentic content that scales you. It's the new type of business that nobody's gone and figured out how to build the business financial tools for them to succeed. And from our experiences working in finance and working with creators, that's what we've come together to help build, starting with a business credit card that bases terms on social stats and financials and branching out into, as you said, so much more.
100%. And I love the added color. Maybe before we hop into anything, is there anything specific that you guys wanted to add a little bit more color on with the current maybe product or maybe just what the website looks like right now? So I know there's probably gonna be people listening that are like on their phones live typing in Trycarrot.com. What might they have misread or read over too quickly as it relates to the introduction to what you're building?
If you check out our website, which I am going to say again, Trycarrot.com, that's spelled Trykarat. Everyone sees the creators that we work with. Graham Stephan, Alexandra Botez, Blau. And the question they have is, hey, how do they become involved? Unlike almost every other company in the creator space, they weren't sponsored. This wasn't a brand deal. They talk about Karat because they actually use it for themselves as businesses and found it so valuable and believed in its extent that they came on as investors afterwards. So I say the number one thing people might not realize checking out our website, checking our Instagram, seeing the myriad of folks we work with is this is organic. Because every single one of these creators knows the pain points of thinking and scaling as an entrepreneur and has found value in what we're doing to the point where they want to talk about what we're doing and they even want to come and join and invest.
So that's a perfect segue into my next question. How did you convince the co-founder of YouTube, the co-founder of Twitch, the former CEO of TikTok, and the co-founder of Twitter to invest in your company?
The number one secret is finding people who already believe in what you're doing. Creating anything is hard, and it's a mix of putting into place what's incredibly blindingly obvious that needs to be done with a mix of, hey, this kind of seems like it doesn't make sense at first glance. And when you're building a company, what you need to do is find people who are already aligned, because they're going to be your supporters. They're going to have your back. They're going to be there on the journey as you figure out the parts that haven't yet been built crystal clear that need you to go and figure out what's to be done. So in speaking with every single one of these founders you mentioned, the co-founders of Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, the former CEO of TikTok, they literally helped build the distribution companies that help creators like you get your content out there in the first place. That unlocks this entire new economy and business. So they're intimately familiar with, well, the next step is building the business financial tools for them to succeed beyond just content into something more.
I love that answer. And I think what's really interesting too about just, not just their support, but the support of other creators is your guys' willingness to collaborate, work together. And I can't speak exactly for you guys, but I'd imagine you guys aren't content creators, but you're more than willing to sit down with creators and who's currently successfully building for creators, the co-founders of these great platforms, and figure out how everyone can work together to just move the creator economy in the right direction.
That's right, man. I think what we're seeing today is this emergence of a new class of small business, right? Like businesses that don't sell stuff or services, but rather like you are selling that media. Right. And ultimately, when we think about the rails on which these businesses are built, traditional banks just don't get it because they're used to a financial system that was constructed centuries ago on a credit scoring system that was made about 50, 60 years ago, pre-internet, and just doesn't understand how you could possibly be making off of this weird thing called the internet on some random platform called Instagram or Twitch or Twitter or TikTok.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that, like Austin, like real talk, right? Like I would have loved to have become a creator. I think it's the coolest thing, right? You get to live your life doing what you want to do and make a living from entertaining, educating, inspiring others. It's possible now, but it's still hard to do that full time. And so I'm like, hey, I don't think I have the proper skill set to be a creator myself, but Will and I understand the financial part really well. And we spend so much of our time with creators that this is our way of helping.
I love it. And kind of back to what you were saying before, Will, the existing financial infrastructure, that moves me into my next question, right? So let's dive deeper into Karat's future and what you guys are actually building in a more intimate manner. In the TechCrunch article, or in a TechCrunch article, you all mentioned building Karat into being the Square for creators. Square's been around for a long time. If you guys that are listening right now, it's those little Square readers. They started with these little swipe things, and now you can put your whole card in them. They're great. But it's much more than that, right? So immediately I think of what great strides Square has done for small business owners. You guys mentioned, creators are a small business essentially. And so Square helped these small business owners build out their operations. If it's receiving payments, generating invoices, payment processing, it's an endless list. Will, can you walk me through how Karat will become this underlying infrastructure for creators of all types? All right, this article mentioned business loans and taxes and mortgages, but I'm sure there's more to the list. Like what's the North Star here?
No, absolutely. That's huge, right? When we think about all the stuff we could possibly build and the needs that creators have, it seems endless. Our North Star really comes back to what do creators actually need? What's the state of the landscape today? How do creators run their businesses? And when we think about that, we see stories like, say, Isaiah Photo, who struggles to get a mortgage, so the banks don't get how he could possibly making and monetizing all this money off of millions of subscribers. And he's just talking to these bank loan officers being like, I don't have a W-2 income, but I have a real business. Please underwrite. We have folks like Alexander Bochez, that you mentioned earlier, not getting a bank account multiple times for her business, even though she's a former startup founder and is making a ton of money off of her Twitch streams. And we see this over and over again happening, right? Where creators are having to rely on Cash App for their payroll, on having to find random accountants as a friend of a friend of a friend to help them with filing their taxes for businesses. It is not easy today. So when we think about the business that we're building, right, similar to Square, how does Square start? Well, it started with a chip reader, just helping local mom and pop shops accept credit cards from anybody and being able to then run their businesses. The way we saw it was, let's help creators with that one hair on fire need. And what we saw over and over again was that creators, when they hit that hyper growth, they need credit and they go to the banks and the banks are not there for them. And we said that makes no sense because what we see are real businesses. You're making real content that's generating real cash and then reinvesting that into your next round of content. You can get credit by underwriting that content business. And so we start with that core business, with this charge card for high growth creators. We then want to be able to expand that out so that creators don't need to just spend money on a Karat card, but they can also receive and save and store money on Karat accounts, right? And when we can start having that money inflow and money outflow, where creators can both receive and spend money on Karat, we're able to build trust. We're able to also get the data to better understand these creators. And then from there, when we own all this data and trust, we can now best understand how do we serve creators better. For instance, tax season rolls around, right? Just like around now, creators are like, oh my God, I have no idea what to do. We can come to them and say, hey, we know that you're struggling with taxes. You haven't paid your taxes for 5 years because we can see there isn't a single cent paid out. Why don't we do that automatically for you? Because we already have this data and you're already trusting us with all your business spend today. And so it's done, right? The next part, hey, we see that you're paying out people on PayPal. These look like people who are contractors. I don't know if you know that PayPal doesn't do their 1099s, and you probably should. Why don't you do that payroll solution so we can help you with that, right? And so we can start layering in these solutions just in time for when creators need it, not pestering them, but rather because we have this trust and the data of how their businesses are operating, able to expand this out into a one-stop shop for creators to run their businesses.
That is a beautiful answer. And I think what's so powerful about that is you're kind of recognizing both sides of it. So on one side, I'm Austin Hankwitz, the creator, right? I've got, contract workers who edit some videos or help me with this, that, and the other. I've got business partners I work with. I have people I pay on an ongoing basis to help me run my business, as well as I have hired an accountant. And shout out to Steven if you're listening to this.
Love you, Steven.
CPA, he's awesome. But so I've hired an accountant. Like I've done all these things to like run my business as a creator. And then on the other side, you have Austin Hankwitz as the normal guy who doesn't exactly have W-2 income, but he still needs a mortgage. He still needs to qualify for maybe a car, right? Yep. He still needs to, do all the normal things that normal people do. But since I don't have access to W-2 income because I'm a creator, it's so much harder to do that, right? I'm so glad I was able to buy my house and get underwritten for my mortgage while I was still working with my W-2 job, because I recently had to go through that hurdle again. And it was a nightmare, absolute nightmare, right? And so it's cool that Karat, in my opinion, maybe I'm misunderstood, but I think that's what you were saying, is that you guys are both allowing creators to be themselves as humans and also helping support their creator businesses on that side of their life.
That's exactly right. I mean, when we think about banking was provided to serve people and their money. And it's strayed so far away from that, right? And now it's like you got to fit into banks' boxes and little check boxes of like, hey, do you fit this kind of business, that kind of business? Creators don't. By definition, right? You're thinking out of the box. How can we serve those types of folks and those types of businesses? That's what we come back to.
I love it. So now let's kind of stay on the topic of banks and underwriting. We're going to migrate now into the sort of halftime show, which I call Mailbox Money. As you guys might know, I've got a Substack account. I've got I think we just hit 6,000 subscribers. But I've got all these cool people. Thank you so much. I've got all these cool people who like to read my emails and kind of tune in on what I'm writing about. And I released something earlier today, kind of introducing you guys and your business. And I've got a couple questions from the audience, Mailbox Money. So this first one comes from Michael from Asheville, North Carolina. He says, how exactly do you underwrite creators? Have you built a moat around this process?
I love that question. When we think about creators, right, I think it's pretty let's think about it in the most primitive form. It's creators create content, they generate cash on that content, they reinvest into their next piece of content, rinse and repeat. And let's take that model and then now let's try and underwrite it. There's two pieces, right? There's cash and there's content. One is a leading indicator. Content, right? The actual content business that you built is a leading indicator for how much revenue you will generate. And specifically, that means reach, engagement, and growth of your channel, right? That all then feeds into the revenue that you generate off of advertising, sponsorships, merchandising, affiliate links, subscriptions, and so on. And so when we look at these two factors, right? One, the leading indicator of socials, two, the lagging indicator of financials, we can actually understand 10 times better than any singular FICO score, right? How creditworthy a creator business actually might be. And that's the underwriting model, right? That's the core of the underwriting model that we built. Have we built a moat? I certainly think so, right? And every single day, every single creator that we've underwritten every day that's passed, our underwriting model just gets stronger and stronger so that we can underwrite more and more creators to be able to actually get access to credit that they deserve.
Great answer. There you go, Michael. Right from the horse's mouth. Love it. And actually, it's funny you mentioned like on every single creator. Like we're going to get into the creators. I have a really interesting creator question for you later. The next question is from Frederick out of London. He says, is the issue of creators not being respected by institutions just a US issue or a global one? I'm a creator myself, or I'm not a creator myself, but some of my friends in the UK would eat this up.
Yeah, it's a broader point tied to the centralized nature of our US financial system. In order to do anything in the States today, not just borrowing money, but saving it, even spending it, a bank has to be able to trust you. People often forget when I, for example, PayPal you $10, that $10 doesn't move over instantly. It takes 3 days. When you see $10 pop up in your account, PayPal's just spotting me. They're saying, hey, Eric, we'll cover you. I'll put it into Austin's account. I figure 3 days later, when it clears, I'll be able to get it from you. And so the whole problem is banks, if they don't trust you and they don't understand you, they're gatekeepers and they won't let you do anything. All of that trust is dependent, as Will alluded to, off models like FICO, which high level is in the United States, how much debt have you taken out before and repaid? Anybody who doesn't fall into that bucket is not going to be understood by a bank and it's going to be underserved. So yeah, if you're international, well, you probably haven't taken out loans in the United States before because you were in another country. You're going to find it really hard to get it set up. Or if you're a creator, if you're a freelance designer, if you're a gig worker, if you're a young adult or teenager. So you're seeing the future of financial technology is everyone's beginning to build financial products specialized not just for use case like Venmo on payments or Robinhood for investing, but for populations. So there actually are people now building financial products for immigrants, for young adults and teens like Current and Step, for creators, and that's us. So what your friend points out is a broadly applicable problem that doesn't just affect creators, but many other segments, including folks coming from abroad into the States.
Got it. And I think what's really cool is, you mentioned these different financial products built just for specific populations. I totally forget the name of this, but I saw it on Twitter where a guy is building a bank in the United States specifically for native Spanish speaking people, because a lot of the banking infrastructure in the US is all created in English, which is a lot of, I'm sure, contracts. There's a lot of confusing jargon. And if you don't natively speak the language, like maybe you're making a mistake, or you know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's just so cool that it's like you guys are building for a population cohort, and it's so interesting to me. I love it.
Yeah.
So my last question here comes from Lacey out of Idaho. Shout out Idaho. I'm sorry. She's asking, what exactly is Y Combinator, and what's that process like? Like what's Y Combinator?
Yeah, it's a startup incubator and accelerator that some companies you might have heard of, like DoorDash, Airbnb, Stripe, and many more have gone through. It finds people who are at the really early stages of developing their ideas into companies, and it provides not only mentorship and support and guidance from people who've done it before, it also provides a small amount of capital to get started. So for Will and myself, we knew we wanted to build business financial products for creators. We also spent years talking with creators, trying different products before we launched the business credit card. Folks often don't know, but our original set was very focused around taxes and budget planning, and even larger chunks of business capital to help you expand your production facilities or hire editors or launch your own merch line. And they didn't work because it was very hard to explain to creators who had no idea who we were, why they should drop everything and use our tax product, or why they should, hey, go and launch this new production facility for funding from us. And the reason why we were able to work through it is because we had people backing us, and we had time, and we had the resources to do so. That's why Combinator provides. Because whenever you're trying to do something new, the initial concept you're probably going to pivot and move away from. It's going to change and evolve, but the underlying motivations and rationale will stay consistent. You just need someone to be supporting you along that way. And that's what Y Combinator is really, really good for, and why so many of the top biggest companies in the world today were incubated by them, just like us.
That is awesome. That is so freaking cool that you guys are surrounded by, the DoorDashes, the Airbnbs, I think even the Coinbases, right?
Coinbase was as well.
Yeah.
Coinbases
Actually,
as well.
our Series A investor, Union Square Ventures, was also the Series A investor in Coinbase.
Insane. Insane. I love it. All right, Will, back to you, man. So let's talk about rewards, right? You talked about solving this sort of hair on fire kind of crisis that creators were having with credit cards. Kind of talking about myself here. I think I got denied by Capital One. I think I got denied by... I did not get denied by American Express because I already had American Express.
That's great.
But I was denied by Capital One, and I was also denied by one other company. But these were companies or credit cards that my accountant was recommending to me because they were best for other small businesses. But since creators aren't exactly small businesses, we're a little bit different. I mean, it was weird, right? So, but what was cool, however, about why I applied to these cards was because of the cashback, the rewards that came with them. So let's talk about rewards with Karat. Credit card rewards are incredibly competitive right now. And honestly, the main reason I use one card over another, like for example, when I was working my 9-to-5 job out of college, I used the Discover It cashback card. They had awesome rotating categories. If it was like 5% back on gas or 5% back on groceries, I mean, dude, I was living my life and having fun. So I want to know, like, how is Karat positioning themselves to stay competitive with other credit cards regarding rewards, and like, are creators getting rewards? Is Karat going to be above and beyond? Like, what are the perks that a Karat credit card holder could expect?
Yeah, no, I love that question. I think you're absolutely right. The reward space for credit cards is insanely competitive. And I think that we have one of the best programs out there where we offer 3 to 5% cash back on categories of a creator's choosing. And we've done this deliberately because every creator is different. Every creator's business is different, and they're going to have different needs that they want to get cash back on, right? And so ultimately, I think this program is awesome. But coming back and taking a step back, like, why is it so competitive? Well, ultimately, these rewards programs are oftentimes so competitive because the banks have just one thing, which is cash. And so they say, hey, here, take a little bit of cash, right? I'll give you 1 or 2% of how much you spend back to you, and you can go and have fun with that. When we look at this, we kind of rethought, like, hey, how do we think about the services that a creator actually needs from a financial partner or a business partner? Well, it extends far beyond just getting 1 or 2% points, right, on how much you spend. But rather, how can we help creators build, scale, and invest in their businesses, right? How can we do that? Well, 1, we provide them access to far better and smarter credit, right? Because we're underwriting their business and their content as opposed to the FICO score. Can we help them also scale their businesses by then also saying, hey, why don't we get you set up with a complimentary session with a financial planner, like a CFP, so that as you're making all this money, you're able to actually think and strategize what to do with this money to build your business effectively. And then can we help you expand this out further, right? And what that might look like is, hey, let's get you set up with a merch line because you haven't set up a merch line. You have great engagement, great reach. This is a whole new income stream for you. So let's set you up with a complimentary session with our designer and get you all set up. Let's throw you up on New York Times billboards, right? Times Square billboards, so you can go and get your name out there. These are the services that you can't really put a dollar value to. And these are the same services that we think would give creators a 10x opportunity to scale their business far more than 1 or 2% back, right, on your money spent.
One more I'll add is we offer exclusive cardholder events. As you know, Austin, we actually hosted one a few weeks ago, Shark Tank. We brought together some of the biggest creators in the world, like Graham Stephan, Alexandra Botez, Justin Minks, to serve as judges, where other startups went and pitched them for investment, like Beacons. And we had creators follow up being like, this was the coolest experience I've ever had in my life. To meet all of my peers and view and see them not just as creators, but as entrepreneurs, as investors in such a different context, absolutely pivotal to helping them think through their work as businesses and what to do next.
That's a great point. And it all comes back to ultimately, why are we able to provide these services that are so much better than cash? It's because we are trying to address a very, very specific niche. And we understand that niche, right, creators as businesses, deeply in a way that Amex or Chase or Discover, they never will, right? And because of that, we're able to then say, hey, how do we help you scale your business? Let's do that. Forget all this cashback stuff. We can give you the best of the best cashback. But what creators come back and stay for on the Karat card is absolutely this kind of community, the kind of ability to scale your business, and just the network.
I'll also say, the last thing I'll say is people often ask, how are you able to provide this? We build it into our business model. Because we don't do influencer marketing sponsorships, all the money a normal credit card company would spend on marketing, that's how we fund rewards. I'd rather give you a card with amazing cash back, all these perks around certified financial planners, merchandiser connections, billboards, and events, and give you that experience instead of spending a penny of that on influencer marketing. Our whole approach is if you just make it really, really good, organic is going to help you win much more than paid advertising.
I was going to say, all right, guys, I knew y'all were smart as shit, but now, like, oh my gosh, the wheels in my brain are turning. Like, you guys are experts of your craft. I don't think anyone understands the creator economy and like how to build in this creator economy like you guys. It's insane. I am mind blown right now. Like, holy shit. Wow.
Man, thank you.
Yeah, that's incredible. Really good explanations. And so how I understand it is, and it's kind of, and it makes total sense, right? So like, let's say Discover, for example, their target market is the everyday average Joe. And chances are the everyday average Joe would appreciate some extra money in his pocket at the end of every month through cash back. But your guys' target market are creators, and creators care about pretty much one thing, and that's their audience. That's engagement. That's like getting bigger and just being a better creator. And if you guys can put them on billboards, if you guys can hook them up with those designers to launch merch, or if you guys can do these very specific things to help them reach their potential as a creator, then that is more valuable to them than cash back on a credit card.
That's exactly right. And it's not just a bet on them as cardholders, it's a bet on them as businesses. Because the average Joe who's using the aforementioned Discover card, how many unique business needs is he going to have in the future that he's going to need Discover specifically to help him with? Versus the way we see it is it's an investment for us because the long-term value of working with a creator business is huge. And it's not just going to be cards. It is going to be bank accounts, tax tools, payments, mortgages. They're going to grow and we want to grow with them.
You guys are so cool. You guys are so cool. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay. I have one more question, and then we'll jump into the sign-off question that I do for every episode. So my last normal question here is I want to spend some time narrowing in on the experience as being a successful founder in fintech right now, specifically in the creator economy. There's probably a lot of people listening who are either building or investing in fintech, and maybe some of them are focused on the creator economy. A massive hurdle, this is that question I mentioned earlier, Will, a massive hurdle for a lot of these creator-focused companies is recruiting the creators themselves, right? So how do you guys recruit and just retain such top-tier talent to use your product? You mentioned organic, but I mean, like, talk me through all of that. That's just insane to me. I mean, like you said, Bilal, Graham Stephan. I mean, you've got some really, really cool people using your product, and you're saying there's no influencer marketing. Like, how have you recruited these people?
So interestingly, we approached it not from the POV of marketing or recruiting, This all started from us just saying, let's make sure we build a product that actually solves their problems that they're going to need. And all of our initial work in the early days of our company was, how do I just get myself in a place where I can just talk to a creator like a human being and be like, what do you need and how can I help? That's how we found out all of these different products we were doing before. Like, they sound great on paper. And yeah, we were able to raise money off of them. And you go chat with creators and you're like, wow, this is like, as you said, 99% of the time a creator is thinking about like, how do I make content? How do I grow faster? And when we were initially starting with these very back office tools like taxes, when we didn't have that relationship with them, we didn't have any data about them, it was so hard to break into that 5% of the time they would care. And we realized that because every single day we would ask ourselves, who's a creator that I can reach out to just to get 5-10 minutes of our time? And that meant going to tons of events before COVID happened. It meant going through a network and asking every single one of our friends, is there someone you know who's connected to the YouTube industry? And sometimes it'd be 3-4 degrees apart. And eventually we get somebody who'd be down to make a paper and talk with us. And then what's really cool is because then we figured out something that actually did help. So one of the very first cardholders we worked with was ZHC, who's under Night. He's got over 20 million followers. He has banger videos like, hey, I just like customized a car and gave it away to Mr. Beast. He's an artist. And his card limits were really, really low because banks did not understand what he was doing. So we were able to set him up with a really stellar card, show him like, you had this problem, we fixed it. And here's the coolest thing. He talked about us. He made stories about us. He put us in videos. We onboarded Graham Stephan because ZHC talked about us to Graham. We onboarded Blau because Blau saw Graham's story about Karat. We worked our butts off to make initial connections to understand what to build, built the products to solve those creators' problems, and then turns out when you treat creators well, they naturally create and influence others. And that's how it became this very organic network where suddenly people are reaching out being like, hey, like, I want to try this. I want to use this. And then Will and I come and in person sit down with them and say, hey, I want to understand your business. Even if the card isn't a good fit, maybe something in the future is. And so every single day, even as co-founders and co-CEOs, we are still talking to creators, asking what can we do to help them be better.
I love that. And I think what was really cool about whenever I didn't end up sticking around with Superhuman, but it was my first experience of like having a white glove onboarding experience. And whenever I got my Karat card, it was very similar, right? I mean, you guys I remember sitting down with Eric talking about this for I don't know how long about like why it was important for me to have one and like all these other different things. That is so important, I think, and I love that. That's really, really cool. And you guys are approaching it in a really in a way that I think is not just sustainable but authentic, and will continue to drive more organic growth for sure. So let's move on to our final sign-off question. And actually, I made a note here of like 2 more questions that are kind of surprises. So we'll see what your answers are for those. But those are really short. The final, sign-off question, I do this every episode for those that have listened, is, we ask every guest on our podcast, in 12 months from now, what do you think people are going to be referring to when they say to themselves, oh, how did I miss this trend? It was so obvious, right? What is that trend happening right now that is so obvious, but people just aren't paying attention?
Yeah, I'm going to say 2 things, and they're 2 sides of the same coin. The first one is creators who are building businesses and trying to hire. I feel every day I open up Instagram now and I see stories from top YouTubers being like, hey, we need an editor. We need a production assistant. We need a creative strategist. Like, here are the qualifications, just go and apply. And like, what's so cool is this is based just off what you can do. Like, can you help me make content or not? It's not like, oh, did you go to like XYZ college and get this degree rather? Do you like know someone in the industry? It's literally just like, can you do these things? And if you can, it's going to be immediately tangible and like, I want to hire you, right? It's almost this complete alternate version of how to find a new career. It's creators leveraging their own networks, just throwing up postings on their stories and saying, hey, come work for me, right? It's happening more and more. And I think there's a huge opportunity for somebody to go and just figure out that problem and systematize it better. In fact, one of my good friends that I used to work with at Instagram, Andre Santolo, is now the new LinkedIn head of creators. And he's been killing it, blowing up over the past year because he's been helping creators with this. Be like, you should have a LinkedIn presence because you also need to hire. The second thing I'll mention is, again, other side of the same coin, creators aren't just making jobs by hiring, they're making jobs by investing in companies. And like, we've always seen a little bit of this, right? Where startups are bringing investors in onto their cap tables and some of those investors are creators, but now it's just becoming like another level. When we hosted Shark Tank, the response and interest we got both from the creator and startup community was absolutely insane. We're going to do our next one mid-May. We have some of the biggest creators in the world just DMing us being like, hey, like, I just want to do this. Like, what do I need to do to get on the next panel? Because it's such a clear opportunity where not only are you killing it on the creative side, you've built a business, you've created jobs, you've hired people, now you want to scale yourself, and you do that by investing. So I think those are the two trends people are going to look back on and be like, wow, like, yeah, this was really, really big.
I love those. On my end, I'm also going to come up with two because I cannot be outdone. The one that I see that is really interesting, I feel like this is just the core of our startup, right? All startups are built on obvious secrets that seem so obvious to people who are in the industry itself, right? And in this case, it's creators who are making 6, 7, 8 figures, and so not obvious to the incumbents, in this case, the banks, who think it's laughably stupid that these people are real businesses and there shouldn't be any kind of service there. So one is just the kind of emergence of creators as this SMB class, as we've talked about. The other side of this, actually, though, is also SMBs having to become and forced to become creators of their own, right? And so what we're seeing is that traditional SMBs have always thought of, hey, what product or service am I going to sell? Let me come up with that. Let me do all the R&D. Let me spend hundreds of thousands of dollars developing this, and then I will figure out distribution. Creators have flipped that around. Creators short-circuited that. They said, let me get distribution to 1 million people, and then, let me figure out what I sell. Do I sell candy bars? Do I sell Mr. Beast burgers, right? What product or service actually understands my user base that I can sell, and I'm going to beat all the incumbents in the market. And I think that's what we're going to see in the course of the next maybe 1 to 2 years, where all SMBs are going to have to shift towards thinking like creators.
I like that. Some of our favorite creators, Graham Stephan launching his own bankroll coffee brand, Elliot Choi launching his copyright lifestyle clothing brand, just immediate jump to my mind. People figure out distribution first.
Totally agree. Wow, that's no shade to any other people who have answered that question in the past, but I want to say that those are my favorite 2 answers thus far, and I think you guys are episode 6. So, wow. I totally agree. It's really interesting. I was talking with, I think it was a bank pretty recently, and they were trying to figure out, they're like, how do we, approach, I guess, onboarding new, this is a very traditional bank, bunch of old heads. And they're like, how do we think about the creator economy, right? How do we do this? Yeah. And it's just like these are like, not small businesses, but actually just, businesses are like, if we want to continue to survive, like we need to be on TikTok, we need to be on YouTube. Who's going to be the face of our business? I mean, like every company right now is trying to hire their Jake from State Farm and their Flo from
or Duolingo, right?
Yeah.
And Duolingo.
Really good example, 100%, dude. It's just insane, and I really like those answers. I think what's also pretty interesting too, you mentioned the investing side, and mid-May, count me in if I can come, that'd be cool. But I was gonna say, I think what's cool too, yes, like once creators kind of hit stride and they're able to lay that foundation of their business and like, wow, I now have disposable income, like how can I begin to one, build wealth, but two, back companies that I use and believe in, like that's that next step. And it seems that you guys are providing that, not just like the liquidity, but that experience, maybe even some mentorship, right? It seems, obviously, Graham Stephan as a serial angel investor, and I'm sure a lot of people who might have been at this event, the first one, the Shark Tank event, might not have ever written a check before, right? So it's cool to like have that, dynamic between the veterans and the rookies, but it's just, you guys are paving the way here, and I'm so excited. If you can't just tell, it's you guys are rock stars.
Really appreciate you making time, Austin. This has been awesome.
Yeah, I'm not done though. I'm not done.
I know. I'm just a big believer in sharing affirmation and things as I feel it. Oh, we're ready.
All right, let's go. 2 questions. 1, what credit cards do you use?
Yeah, so for myself, of course, we use the Karat card, right? Why wouldn't we? But from a personal perspective, and this is a huge reason why we think what we're doing is so valuable, I'm like using like the credit card that like my mom set up for me when I was like 11 years old, right? It's like a terrible card. Like it makes no sense for me to use it. I get like 0 rewards, but I still have it in my wallet because I am so gosh darn busy on Karat, on creating in my own way, that I haven't had the time to go figure out, oh, hey, like, do I get rid of it? Do I swap to something else? And that's the situation so many of our creators find them in as well, where it's just, hey, like, this is an important part of their business, but they're focused on the creative side. And then we come to them and say, like, you can use us and you can trust us because every one of your friends and the creators you follow already are on Karat.
Yeah.
Well, what about
similar.
you?
It's just like, I think I used Chase. I mean, I set this up back when I was in college. And then I stuck with them, not because I love them, but because of inertia. Because, hey, like, why change? Because no other bank out there is even trying to actually win my business or even try and be any better than Chase. And there's this kind of status quo thinking that's happening today, right? Where today we can kind of look at each other and say, what's the best possible experience, financial partner experience that we can provide for creators that's far more exciting.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I'm like super deep in the Apple ecosystem. So I'm like kind of an Apple Card user. I got an Apple Card actually, like I pre-ordered it, like I'm an Apple fanboy, right? So like I got that a while ago. And it's just super easy. And you know, they've got the whole metal thing. I think that's kind of a flex. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think the Apple Card for me, despite the rewards aren't really there, but I mean, dude, shout out to anyone who knows how to like milk, I know there are people out there that have like 12 different credit cards and they just rotate them for all the rewards. Like if you want to keep up with that and have the time to get that extra couple $100 a year in rewards, like you got it. But me, like, I just want to have convenience. And to me, that's the Apple Card.
That's how it works. And I mean, that's another great example of Apple, a technology company launching a financial product. And to Will's point on like, where's innovation, the status quo, right? Banks, simply by existing, used to have all the interest and traction. And now that's different because it's easier for anyone like us to go and build our own financial products on top. And so it's like, big banks, we're coming for you. And we're already winning big, really valuable customers away.
I love it. Okay, we're signing off here. Where can people find you? Say the website again. You said it before. Say it again. Let's hear it.
www.trycarrot, K-A-R-A-T, trycarrot.com. And check out our Instagram @Trycarrot.
Boom. I love it. Thanks, guys.